Welcome to the Josh Button Podcast, where we discuss health, wellness, and outliers from society. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Josh Button Podcast. This is episode 63, and today I'm joined by Dr. Rob Yonover, an inventor, a waterman, and you're my kind of guy, to be honest, because I looked up a little bit about your lifestyle to begin with before I ever did any deep research, and I just couldn't believe everything you're getting into out there, and it all fascinates me. It's right up my alley. So I'd love to first share your history and tell us how you became such a waterman.
Sounds good. Well, I grew up in Miami. I was there from when I was 1, and I just got sucked into going to the ocean with my friends and became a pool boy at the hotels in Miami Beach. And we used to set up the lounge chairs for the tourists. Then we go out fishing, diving, surfing. We used to dive for fish and lobster and sell them to the tourists. And we were surfing these big longboards. This is back in the 70s. And it's just the bug hit. And I just started surfing, and my buddies, we'd travel all over. And whenever we could get enough gas and borrow a car, we'd go on it. And it's an addiction, and it's a healthy one. And then now here I am 40 years. Well, it's 50 something years later than that, but it's 40 years being in Hawaii. And now I'm really into surfing. I'm an aging surfer. So to do that, it's not easy. You have to keep up in your game. You know, most guys quit at 50. I'm 65. I'm still surfing 20-foot face waves. And the way to do it is train. You know, you're an athlete, and you know there's no easy way to do it. You eat right, you train. And I'm barely a human anymore. I come back to water to land once in a while, and I paddle 2 miles for lunch every day if I don't surf. And when I get out a mile, I do 51 breath free dives in a row and like a couple hundred medley freestyle swim and all sorts of types of swims. And then I paddle back a mile. And I have these prone paddle boards. You lay down paddle boards, so you simulate the same surfing motion. So I'm all about training. So when there are no waves or the waves are shitty, I'm training. So when the waves hit, guys are all sore and out of shape, and I'm in better shape. So I'm on it. I'm not going to get edged out by some 20-year-old kid. And the whole thing about surfing is ball weight and board speed and ball weight. You got to get your board going fast enough, and you have to have the balls to go over the hook, to go over the ledge and go. So that's been my MO from the beginning, which is just stay in shape and keep doing that. And it's been great. I mean, I love it. It's been a nice cycle. It's a good thing to learn to transition to from regular life. You know, I'm a regular person. I have a professional, I have a family, all that. But even in my darkest times, when my wife was in a wheelchair and we're struggling for money, tiny little kids, I always could go out and surf or paddle and get recharged. And that saved me. And that's why I continue to do it, just to save me in older life. You know, I'm not that old. By the number, I'm old, but not by the physicality.
Well, good on you if we don't feel our age and let other people associate those numbers all they want, as long as we're doing what we want to do.
Exactly. And the other thing about surfing is the more experience you have, the better you are in bigger waves. So ironically, when you go out in big waves, it's mostly older guys, 30, 40 years old and above. There's not many 20-year-olds out there. So it's one of the few sports where aging actually helps. And just to get knowledge, surfing is really tough out here in Hawaii, North Shore. The waves are heavy, thick, dangerous. And to me, doing it over and over gets you better at it. And now I'm prepared to go to any types of situations. I've seen them all, so I'm comfortable with them. And I surf when it's bad, too. When it's shitty and blown out, I'll go out anyway, because then it's easy when it's glassy and nice, because I've been training when it's bad. So that's another one of my secrets. It's not a secret, but it's just something you do. And the other thing is aging out. I don't really want to surf with other kids, and I got a kid. I don't like competing with my kids and friends for waves. So I go to these remote places. I surf a mile offshore all by myself, where there's a rock sticking out of the ocean off on North Shore. And I go for bigger and windier waves, what most people don't want. And that gives me, last 5 or 6 sessions I've had, I haven't seen a human within sight. And that's preferred for me. I like that.
You struck a nerve with me there. You tapped into something that I wasn't sure would even come up. And
what's that?
if you started in Miami,
Yeah,
then you probably most of the time surf some slop more than you
absolutely.
got a perfect wave.
Miami sucked. The waves were 1 foot and the women were mean. My whole life, I dreamed about getting to. In fact, I hated Hawaii for years. We'd go to the surf movies. They'd show every month or two, Endless Summer or whatever, 5 summer stories. And we'd go watch these movies. And it was beautiful, blue water, perfect barrels, and beautiful women in bikinis. And everyone's friendly. And I'm going, shit, Hawaii sucks. I don't want to go there. That's such a tease. I'd wake up the next morning. It's 1 foot slop. It's horrible, crowded, and nothing wrong. I love Miami. Miami's great, but in terms of surfing, it's really horrible because the Bahamas block the waves. So the little waves that would come don't even come. But I contend that got me the addiction even deeper because I was so deprived. And you get Surfer Magazine every month and you read it, and it's like, oh, look at this, look at that. And then we'd have nothing to surf on. It was unbelievable. So it got the desire so deeply bound in me that, I'm 65 and I'm like a 12-year-old Grom getting excited when there are waves, and even this podcast, I had to schedule this so I knew it would be too big or blown out. There's no way I'm wasting a morning. And, I work all the time, but I'm flexible. So I tell people, I'll meet you after 2. That way I want that morning slot open so I can get up to the North Shore and surf the big ones. And because, the nature doesn't care if it's Wednesday morning. It doesn't care if it's Sunday. It doesn't care. So you got to be ready and flexible.
I could not agree more. I started, I guess the first couple times I surfed was in California, but then I started down here in Miami.
Oh, really?
And it was such a tease. There was never really waves. I got up on a stand up paddleboard to
Right.
really teach myself the water, just because that was the only thing I could catch a wave on it. And then I moved to California and chased waves myself. So I was like,
that's
I got to
smart.
have the consistency. And
Well, the secret to my longevity is that prone paddleboard.
mhm.
And you mentioned stand-up paddleboard. Prone paddleboard was the original lay-down paddleboard, no paddle. And that's the same exact muscles as surfing. And they're so efficient, they feel like you're getting pushed by a one-inch wave all the time. So when I go out and do a prone paddle lunch session just for my lunchtime workout, afterward, I get that same natural high of surfing. Not quite as good, but close. It feels like I surf. And I get the free dive and swim with, incorporated into it. So it's like, what a formula. And I tell all my buddies in Miami, you got to get a paddleboard. They don't even have them down there. A couple of my buddies took some down there, but I'm sure you've never even seen one.
No, they caught on for sure.
Really?
Right. Yeah, they caught on just because I think it was some watermen that had moved to Miami and were like, you know what, there is no waves, guys. These aren't waves. This is exercise, and it's simply that, just exercise.
Right. That's smart. I mean, you got to accept your circumstance.
Yeah, and exactly. And the lifeguards there, they kind of caught on the same thing. Like, look, we're working most of the time. If we can get out here and exercise, that's what we're going to do. And
right.
There's some kites, there's some wind.
Yeah, right.
So
there's all sorts of ways to play with it. I'm a simplicity guy. I'm a loincloth guy. I want to just have shorts and go. Now I got to wear a rash guard because the sun's frying me. But loincloth is the way to go, and no paddle. Nothing motorized. In fact, out here in Hawaii, we got a law passed that tow-in surfers can't be within 1,000 feet of paddling surfers, which is great. They hate me at my big wave spot. In with the jet ski.
Yeah,
They can't be within 3 football fields of my old ass, and I paddle out there, and 5 sets of jet skis have to leave, as it should be. If I'm busting my ass, I'm busting my ass. Naturally, no fuel, no electronics, no electric motors, and they got to show respect. And that's when they come up to me, they go, "Hey, can we surf here?" I go, "Oh, you guys got to go, man. You come back, give me a couple hours. Look, see that shore a mile away? I paddled from that shore." And I kind of like to shame them. I always say, "Hey, I got an extra board in the car if you want to join me." And they're like, "Oh no."
I think that's the way it should be. Is there's a shortboard zone, there's a longboard zone, and you guys on the high performance jet skis that are going to tow in, go get that big wave that nobody else can get into.
Exactly. And if an old guy's willing to go for a big wave and he's paddling, you respect that ultimately.
Absolutely.
And that's why we got it passed here, because there's still respect for the Polynesian, the art of surfing. had nothing to do with jet skis. Okay. And to me, that's all cheating. It's fine when it's 50-foot faces and you can't paddle in, fine, go for it. But even if that, on those big days nowadays, there's some crazy guys that paddle that. And the same law applies. So that's what's one of the good things about Hawaii. The thing about Hawaii versus Miami, when I was a kid in high school, surfer, teenager, if you surfed, you were a heroin addict. That's what it was in Miami. Here, if you surf, the kings and queens surf. It's totally respected. First of all, it's crazy. It's, you got to be a real athlete to surf here and not die. So it's such a great contrast, and that's why I loved it from the day I got here. I'm like, okay, now finally I have respect. I'm not thought of as just some scumbag trying to get out of work to just surfing and doing heroin. And I never did heroin. The whole thing was you're just a surfer, you're a drug addict. So it was just but I mean, that image has changed, of course, but that was a long time ago.
You also tapped into something else in Miami. If you ever do get good waves, and it happens once a year, once every couple years, there's a swell, most likely you're not in paddle shape to actually go surf it. You're just going to get lumped up and bruised up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's why. I've been doing this. So it's a threefold. I get the workout, I'm prepped for surfing, and the next swell, I'm on it, and everyone else is behind me. And again, I can out paddle anyone. I mean, I had they have paddleboard races here it's like a 10-mile paddleboard race. They have bigger ones, but I did the 10-mile one a couple times, and these two beautiful women came up to me. They're talking to me, and we got close to Diamond Head, and they said, okay, we got to go. I'm like, oh, so they were just going slow to humor me and talk to me, and they paddled much faster than me. And I'm like, that pissed me off. So I'm paddling, and then we got near Waikiki, near the finish line, and I realized if I cut through Diamond Head by the waves where I'm comfortable, they're going further out. So I caught them like an eighth of a mile before the finish line, and I said, oh, there you guys are. See you later, because I can out paddle them, and I smoked them to the finish lines. The whole thing, to me, it's all training, and coupled with training is nutrition. And I eat like a freak. That's the other thing. I'm loincloth in the ocean. I'm loincloth in the fridge. Everything in my fridge is there's just one name. There's not multiple names on any product. So I'm like
enlighten us.
Okay, and I'm lazy, but I'm a geochemist, PhD scientist, so I'm into mixing things. So I make a 6-bean Indian curry in the crock pot, and I eat it with hulled barley instead of brown rice, and a raw quarter head of a cabbage, which is unbelievable. The cabbage out here is so good. And dark chocolate and coconut oil. I eat that every day like a dog. I eat the same thing every day. And dinner's an option, but breakfast, I have a morning rule. Instead of beans as my protein in the morning, I have like a protein drink, and then I have hemp, chia, blueberries, wheat bran, all in like a little base of Cheerio with some almond milk. And again, those two meals I don't change. So I kind of eat like a dog because my dog eats the same thing every day. So do I. Dinner, but I go by the 80-20. 80% of the time I eat that. 20% of the time I'll eat a hot dog, I'll eat pizza, whatever, because my colon and my body just laughs at that stuff when it comes in. A hot dog, see you later, because I'm into colon blow. I want shit moving through me fast and hard. I mean, I eat meat, but I think I eat, the guys, and my son's a big meat guy. He hunts on the outer islands. And I have another guy. We argue about this all the time. And the meat diet is good, except it's meat and it kind of binds you up. And it's also, you can't get the highest level meat all the time. You're not, a lot of it's farmed meat, which is weird, but it's okay. But I'm into moderation. And to me, if you're going to overmax on something, it's beans. So in my 6 beans, I eat brown lentils, orange lentils, garbanzo beans, lima beans, these green colored beans from Mexico, just whatever beans, dry beans too. I throw the dry beans in the crock pot with tomato and carrots, onions. 9 hours later, I wake up and turn it off and stir it for 4 hours and then put it in the fridge. Don't put it in the fridge after 9 hours straight. It'll go rotten. You got to let it cool. And it's just great. So I have, I call it the push button superfood diet. Everything I eat is from a device, either a crock pot, a rice cooker for the barley, or a microwave to heat it. I mean, I don't really need a regular oven. I mean, I do. I catch a lot of fish too. I should say that. I supplement the beans with fish. So I eat a fish a couple times a week. I catch fish. I I was commercial fishing for a while, and then my son convinced me to freeze my fish, which to me as a fisherman was like, that's not cool. But now I always have fish in my freezer. So any day of the week, I can have fresh fish tacos. We have fresh frozen. And the fishing is crazy here where I used to go. I live on the corner of Oahu where Molokai is. So there's Molokai Channel is one of the roughest waters in the world. So I fish out there. I fished there for years, and I tie myself into the boat so I can't fall out. Because when you're fishing, I only troll with lures. I don't use bait. And I was catching fish and selling them to the restaurants. And now I just go and I just fillet and fill my freezer every couple of months, and it's nice. So I like fish as the ultimate protein, but the daily grind protein is beans. And then the one thing that I did discover, a friend of mine turned me on to, was green. I mean, I've been into greens my whole life. My father was and mother were really big about vegetables. My grandmother was one of the early female doctors. So she turned me on to a broccoli salad I make with apple cider vinegar and avocado mayo and some seeds. And it preserves the broccoli, again, in the fridge. So I've got all these like feed bags. You know what a horse's feed bag is? That's kind of how I eat. I got the big old crock pot with the beans. I got the barley in the rice cooker pot. And then I've got a big, like a Tupperware thing full of that broccoli salad. And it lasts for a week. So it's crunchy, good. So I'm totally into greens. That beans, greens, and proteins, and fiber. And the other thing is fiber, of course, to get everything flowing. I'm all about it. To me, it's not even food. It's fuel, right?
Yeah.
If you got a Ferrari, you're going to put shitty gas in it? No, I'm putting the best gas in it. I'm an athlete. I'm not putting shitty fuel in me. I want the best fuel. So
Are you doing any gardening, or you growing any?
Just plants, but no. I mean, I'm actually, ironically, people are shocked when I say this, but my friend turned me on to this strategy, and I don't eat that much fruit anymore. I used to be a big fruit guy. The only fruit I really eat, I mean, I'll eat it, but it's like a dessert once in a while. If someone gives me a banana or mango, I'll have it, but I don't stock any and eat it. I do eat blueberries every day, but because fruit has high sugar, it's like I'm trying to avoid sugar. And my thing with sugar is I save it for the good sugar. And to me, the good sugar is dark chocolate, which is the best of the sugars because it's more cacao. So, and it's debatable, but my friend who turned me on to this strategy is another PhD guy, and his son is a type 1 diabetic. And they were in a panic how to eat. And he analyzed all the food, and he said, it's not worth it. The fruit and sugar, it's not worth it. His kid can't eat it anyway. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then I started testing myself. It's like 10 years ago. And he was right. My blood sugar kept jumping every time I would eat grains. I used to, I was brought up thinking brown rice, whole grain bread, fruit is all good. And it's not. It's okay. And then I also think more like a wild animal. I've been lucky enough to travel around the world and see animals. And, everyone thinks lions don't eat meat all day. They make a kill once a week or once every 3 days. That's it. So it's like we're eating, the modern humans eating 3 meals of meat. I'm like, that's not natural. Even they, they should forage and eat a scrap of meat here and there. And I think that was a good lesson for me, and I still think it's true. And so if you're going to eat the same thing every day, it should be something that's more sustainable for you. I mean, I'm not even talking about the environment. That's a whole other argument. But it's what works for you. And I know people say, oh, the beans, you fart. And I don't even rinse my beans. Another trick I have is I don't even rinse my beans because to me, when you rinse anything, you're getting some of the nutrients out. So I put the dry beans right in the crock pot for 9 hours. And they say that makes you fart more. But I don't even care. I don't fart that. I mean, my stomach's used to it. It's nothing. But, for the uninitiated, it might be tough to eat my curry. But it's not that hot. I use Indian spice, garam masala or golden spice powder. And and while I'm paddling, the other thing I use is I like to earn every meal. Okay. So I don't just eat to eat. The breakfast, I walk my dog. I do some workout. I pull an 80-pound sled backwards in the backyard for my legs. I do some push-ups. I do all these little things. And then I earn breakfast. I do a 2-mile surf or surf session, then I've earned lunch. And while I'm out paddling or surfing, all I'm thinking about is, I can't wait to get back to my beans. And my buddies call it gruel, not even, gruel like, you're in prison and they throw you some porridge. So, it's not for everyone. I'm a different kind of person, but it's been working for me. So I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, that's the key, is finding what works for you, right?
Right. I think, they say different bodies have different affinities for food. But
yeah, and then there's people with the blood type,
right.
analogy. And so, what else are you getting into in the water? I think I saw you on a foil.
No, that's my son.
That's your son?
My son does the stand-up foil, and he just crossed the channel. He did 40 miles in 3 hours. He crossed that Molokai Channel, and I was the escort. And they only go when it's rough, so it's like 10-foot seas, and I'm following my boat. He got up on a wave. He gets up, and he doesn't fall for 2 hours. He's riding this. It's unbelievable.
Is it downwinding?
Yeah, downwinding. And that's, I give those guys shit. They call what I do, they call prone paddleboards a torture stick, the torture stick. And okay, yes, you got to work and earn it. They get up and they're just playing and they're surfing. They're surfing downwind, following sea. And it's hard. It's not easy. It looks easy. So he crossed the channel a couple times. Years ago, I thought about, there was wind. Over the years, I've seen stand-up paddleboards, windsurfing, kiteboarding, foiling. There's all these little variations, which is cool. I'm all for people getting in the water, but I decided a long time ago, I want to be a surfer. I'm surfing till I'm 100, till I die, and I'm paddling the prone paddleboard to train for surfing. That's enough. I free dive and I, fish. I do those kinds of things, and I swim, but I don't take on other board sports just because I don't have time. I'm also busy. I actually work a lot, so that's also a hassle for water sports, but keeps you honest, and you have to get some money to buy all those beans,
If you thought the beans were expensive, imagine getting a quiver of every kind of board you can imagine now.
Yeah, well, exactly. I got like 30 surfboards at the house here, and because I don't get rid of the ones I ride, and I was a good buddy with Dick Brewer. That one behind me is a Brewer balsa. The other thing I was turned on to recently is I surf balsa, hollow wood balsa boards, and this is one of them behind me. And my buddy told me, well, the origin of them in the 70s, the surfers would go overseas and they'd, smuggle heroin or whatever they were doing. They'd hollow boards
in their
out.
boards.
Yeah. And then they got back once and they said, let's try surfing them. And it turns out they're great for big waves because they give you the inertia. Once you start going for windy and big waves, so I'm a total convert. They're not little tiny boards, but I'm into bigger waves, so big, more gradual turns and drops. But those hollow wooden boards are the best. So I'm into that, and I've got a million boards, but don't anyone come try to take them. I got a big Rottweiler right here.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
When you're doing your prone paddling, do you ever get on your knees and paddle, or are you straight prone paddling?
Prone the whole time. I did back in Florida. We did the glide sliding or hydro sliding, where you did on your knees and you're skiing, and I don't think I could even do that now without crushing my knees, getting in that position. But a lot of the prone guys switch back and forth. But I'm on a 12-foot stock board. So a lot of the guys that race prone boards are in the longer ones and they have rudders. Mine is just a straight 12-foot stock paddleboard. Again, it's so zen. I don't know how to explain it, but you just start, stroke, and you just forget. And as a scientist and inventor, I'm thinking of stuff. That's when I get my best ideas. I come in from paddling, rush to a piece of paper to write all the things I thought about. And most of them are worthless, but 20% of my ideas are good. So I kind of focus on those.
It's super meditational, right?
Exactly. And it's just on every level. And the other thing about it is, I honestly, I'm not going to be surfing the North Shore till I'm 100. But you know what? I'll be paddling a prone paddleboard till I'm 100. So it's a nice transition in that it'll be for life. And lately, I've been stocking up on these paddleboards that I like because they don't make them anymore, the ones I really like. And I just found a couple, and now I'm good. I'm good till I'm 100, unless something happens to the house or something.
Yeah, that was one of the things I actually liked about stand-up paddling is that most of the time, if you're not in waves or anything, there's not much to it. You're just
Right,
standing there with a paddle. So it
right,
was really meditational.
exactly.
And I ended up giving up those things because of it was all the compounding on my
Yeah,
right
it's
hip.
such an irregular body motion. You know,
Yeah.
it's really it's good for your core, I'm sure, but
Hmm.
it's very unnatural. And I don't see many old stand-up guys. And the other thing about stand-up
Well,
and here in Hawaii, which is really bad, is it's so windy with the trade winds, you can't
hmm.
go back against the wind. So it's a totally limited sport because you're a 6 foot sail going the wrong way if you're trying to go against the wind. Prone paddle, you're only a foot off the ground. So I go out paddling. I used to do it with my son. He had a one-man canoe for years. We'd go out, and my house is upwind, so we go downwind on trade winds, go out a mile, and then come back, and he's struggling. And, he would be all cocky because he could outrun me with, going downwind. I'm like, okay, now, sucker, let's see. And going against the waves, the prone paddle boards goes, I paddle sometimes when it's like 40, 50 mile an hour winds. I don't care. I also like it. There's my dog. I like it more when it's rough. It's more, similar to real life conditions of rough water fishing or surfing. So it's been a crazy ride, but I think, yeah, it'll stand up can hurt your back. That's why I would suggest prone paddling, man. Get a prone paddle, a prone paddle board. And I take a 25-foot string and I keep it in my pocket. I flip the board over and I tie it to my fin. That's when I do my free diving and swimming. I do it a mile out. It's beautiful out there. There are turtles, fish. The only problem is I got run over once by a sorry. I got run over by a parasail boat that didn't see me because I used to have white paddle boards. So now I painted the bottom orange so they don't run me over. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I'm just trying to imagine tying myself off to a board out there and then
No,
all
no,
the
no, no. Never
situations I
tie
might
your
get myself into.
No, never tie yourself. I hold the string in my hand. And in fact,
Oh, got it.
the time the jet ski boat came over, I saw him coming. He was coming right at me because you can hear underwater really well. And I was
Right.
swimming at that point, and my board was upside down. I had the 20-foot string. He's coming right at me. And I'm like, he doesn't see me. And then I realized there's no way he can see me because I can't even see him anymore. So I ditched the string and I free dove down 20, 30 feet, and he went right over me. He took the board like an eighth of a mile away, ripped the fin off. And from then on,
Man.
I wear like a brighter color top now, and my boards are all brightly colored because I don't want to die.
Yeah, just you can't have a flag with you or anything like that. You
No, I mean, again, it's all loincloth. I try not to have anything on me. Ideally, I mean, I'm bummed I have to wear sleeves now. I like just wearing shorts, but the sun's killing me. So,
well, that kind of brings us up to your invention, in my opinion, because
okay, thank you.
you created this because of people that could get lost at sea, you know?
Exactly, exactly. I came here to work on volcanoes, and I was flying inter-island with a friend. He rented a plane. He was a pilot, and it was like a rental plane. It's like a rental car. It's irregular. One just crashed. A small plane crashed yesterday in Hawaii. A couple people died. And you get over the ocean, all you see is blue. And I'm like, okay, this plane could crash land, but my wife and the people are going to die because I started looking into it, and they have flares, smoke, sea dye. That all goes away. So I'm like, and then you talk to people that have been rescued. You see it. The people that are lucky enough to get saved always say the same thing. You flew over me 4 times. Why didn't you see me? And all that stuff, flares, smoke, sea dye, goes away right away. And even EPIRBs or your phone tells you where you are. But you ever look at rough water from the air? I don't care if you know where the guy is. If you don't have a visual, you talk to any Coast Guard search pilot, they can't see it. So it took me years, and I invented a long orange piece of plastic with spreader bars on it. So it's got struts. It's segmented like a centipede. So it gives you a 25 or 40-foot long orange tail. It's such a simple device, and there's no batteries, chemicals, or electronics. And I've been building them for 30 years. They're military approved. They're used all over the world. They save lives. They're on SpaceX now under the ass of every astronaut. They're on fighter jets, and I got it on Shark Tank. It's been an incredible ride for such a simple device. But the truth is, the simpler the invention, the broader the patent, because it's hard to design around it. So if you look at a TV, you could change a couple components and get around any patents that are there. But something like a streamer with segments, making it segmented, it's hard to design it any differently to make it work like that, because the segments keep it from twisting and curling up. It spins its way out, so it always gives you a flat, long orange tail, and you can see where the guy is. And the military likes it because it's the only discretionary signal. You can put it away when the enemy's around and then put it back out. So it's repeatable, and it's been a crazy ride. I've got a whole bunch of inventions, but that's the one that really took off, and I'm still working it all.
So it's easy to unpack and to pack?
Yeah, absolutely. Sea Rescue Streamer, it's called. You can and I don't like to say this, but the big one looks like the end of a paper towel roll, and the small one looks like the end of a toilet paper roll. It's just a roll of material. So if you have time, you can roll it back up. But if you're in a rush, like it's the enemy is coming to kill you, you could pull it back up and just hold it or stuff it under your shirt and then just throw it out again. So it depends how much time you have in terms of re-rolling it. But they come in little holsters so that you can clip them on your pack. And it's just a nice, simple insurance policy, because a lot of guys in the marine world, as boaters and even aviators, they know that stuff fails. Electronic stuff fails. It's just good to know that you got something that works every time. And even if you run out of gas in a boat, you can unfurl it and people say, hey, what's that? And go come help you. So it's just a great visual signaling device. I'm a very visual person, and it's kind of a crazy idea, but it's a good one. So
in my opinion, it's brilliant, and I'm sure you've got dozens of success stories with it.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I mean, the problem with the success stories is a lot of them we don't hear about because it's through the military, and they don't. I've had guys come up to me at shows and say, "Yeah, I worked this in Afghanistan. We needed to get out of an area. The helicopter needed to see where we are. We unfurled it, so the helicopter found us and got us out. Great stuff. Thank you." I'm like, okay, but then they leave and they don't want you to talk about it.
Yeah.
Even a guy here, a free diver, was diving, came up from the boat. Divers have a high risk because they come up, the currents are different below, especially scuba guys versus the surface currents. They end up so far from the boat, they got a little 6-foot inflatable signal staff, but that thing is like a toothpick. You can't see that, especially if you're really lost. From 500 feet, you can't see that. So they were lost, and they held up the streamer on their spear and were saved. And again, he didn't want me to publicize it. He was embarrassed, and I understand that. So it's very gratifying, though. To meet the people that you help save is really cool. That's what I was trying to get across to the Shark Tank guys, and I kind of couldn't believe how greedy they were. They were only into money. How much money can I? Don't you have enough money? Don't you want to save some lives? It feels good. It feels better than money. I don't care. Anyway, they were cool. They respected and liked the invention, and so it was a great experience because they also rerun it on CNBC. I did it like 6 years ago. It's been on like 80 times. And every time it runs again, I get Amazon hits and I get notes from people that want to do this or that. But the only problem is I was in the hair and makeup trailer, and 6 years ago I looked better than I look now. So
we all go through that one, brother. I was a male model for 25 years. So.
Hey, still good looking.
Thousands of people are lost every year in the outdoors. Your head's the size of a speck. You're going to die. Hi, I'm Dr. Rob Yonover, and I invented the Sea Rescue Streamer. It's approved and used by militaries worldwide to save lives. It's now available directly to you.